Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we're going to make a whole set of dominoes using reclaimed oak. The oak that I used to make this project here actually comes from a home renovation where the oak was originally just normal, and then after a couple years later it was painted white, which is why when you see the planing of the wood you have that white covering over it. Dominoes actually comes from the Chinese about 800 years ago, and as a result what I did in the design is actually integrate 1 to 6 here in the Chinese characters instead of just having a regular boring line. There's a lot of custom stuff you could do when it comes to making dominoes. This is just one little design aspect I added to it. Otherwise it's just like a traditional game of dominoes. One thing that I noticed afterwards, after making these, is actually it's the same size as my cell phone. So it's actually pretty neat how sometimes you make a project and it fits perfectly with something else that you bought or you did a long time ago, and it just happens that the dimensions are the same or some aspects of the design are identical. I just find that kind of neat. Anyways, what we'll do now, we'll take a look at me planing this wood from the original reclaimed source, which was actually left outside for about a year after the home renovation. Planing wood is a pretty straightforward process. All you do is slide the planks into the machine and it takes off the top surface, then you run it again and you take off the bottom surface. But what's something that it doesn't do is it doesn't take care of the edges. Now technically I could have put the boards like this and ran them through the planer as well, but I do have a bandsaw and I thought that would be a more efficient way of production for me at least, because then I could run them in and they'll all be exactly the same width. When I originally conceived the idea of making these domino sets, the first thought I thought about was I'll just do everything with the laser. It's very efficient. The laser could cut through this roughly, I guess, 3/4 inch oak, no problem at all. But then I thought, you know what, I like to have sometimes things a little bit different, and I wanted the edge to be non-burned, which is what you see here. I could have run it through the laser and then run it through the sander to remove the burning, but I just thought, this went so well with the bandsaw for cutting all the edges even. I just figured I'll just cut down the blocks as well using the long planks that were planed before. This is roughly 6.5 inches by 3.5 inches, so it's definitely a nice size and feel, and that's what we'll take a look at me cutting now. Before going into full production of making these dominoes, I did a quick test with the laser just to double check my settings. Although I've done oak a lot of times, I just wanted to make sure I had the right depth because I knew I was going to sand quite a bit of this stuff. And the reason is I didn't mask these. I just wanted to see how much gunk fills up because a lot of the woodwork I do here in the shop, it's always masked. So it's just fun to double check that the reason why you're masking is actually relevant. And in this case here, especially with oak, definitely in the future, I'm always masking it. There's a lot of sanding involved. The first step is actually doing the branding on the back, as you can see here. And it comes out really, really nice. After custom branding all of these pieces here with my logo, the next step was to put all the numbers permanently engraved into the oak. Now for the sanding process, basically what I'm doing is making boards that sort of look like this, and you can see the shine from the resin and the smoke residue into this. Sanding oak is always a fun process simply because it's such a hard wood to sand. So it takes quite a bit of time to sand all the resins and stuff off of it. That's why it's important when I did the laser engraving that I went extra deep onto the surface, because I knew after the sanding process there wouldn't be that much left over. As you can sort of see here. So I had just enough. While I was sanding the surfaces of this and all the edges, I noticed that it was feeling kind of square, like the edges, it was kind of sharp or something like that. So what I decided to do is do another production run of the sanding, and this time just put the machine at 45 degrees and actually give it a slight bevel. Now I could have done this with the router, I could have done this so many different ways, but you got the sander running right in front of you, and all you need to do is go like this. It's just so much more efficient. And that's something I like to do, is to be as efficient as I can here in the shop, so that my customers get something both on time and its costs that makes sense financially to do as well. And now you know how this set of dominoes was done. It's really a fun project. It's fun to use material that most people would throw away and just make something really, really nice out of it. Originally, I had two ideas. One was to put my logo as it's round, as every one of these circles, and I totally could have done that. And decided against it just because I go to a lot of trade shows and I want them to recognize the dominoes, and by the way, they're branded, and by the way, we made the whole thing. It just creates a better conversation with potential customers. The other thing that I noticed with the dominoes is that originally I was going to finish them all, so it makes the colors pop more than they already do. But I decided against that. This is oak, so it's a very strong wood, and it takes wear and tear very, very well. So any kind of finishing I was going to put onto it eventually will wear out before the oak, obviously, because it's on the surface of it. So for now, what I'm going to do is just play with these set of dominoes as is. And the nice thing about wood is that, let's say a couple of years down the road, this stuff starts to wear out. I could just resand the surface. And again, now it's a lot easier because it's already been planed, so everything's nice and flat. And do a new laser engraving. Same thing with the back. So if the logo ever wears out just from using it or whatever happens, I could just sand it right off and do it again. That's one of the nice unique features about wood. So if you want something custom made a couple years down the road, like Corian for instance, it can easily be sanded and rebranded. So if you're looking for a custom set of dominoes or anything else, contact me at CNCKing.com with your specs, how many you want, and your budget, and we'll go from there.